exactly. All right, did I? Oh man, it's good at least. I'm glad at least I took the time to take my my meds and throw some water on my face. Um, I realized part of my what's the word? Um, Part of my just feeling like lousy is the. I was talking about it with my daughter this morning. It's the time of year, where it's like you're just it's that liminal um, thing where uh, you're between holidays and then also partly too here, like the weather is just right now. The weather is just shit. Um, yeah, it's. I mean, what it is part of it is just it's New England, um, and um, your device will. Sorry, it's saying like let's check in and log in again because we already logged you in. Um, I mean, what's interesting is up here. This is the scintillating weather conversation that people will be sorry they missed. Um, Up here in the in New England, what's interesting is like it's kind of like anywhere in the world um, where um, you know perhaps in some way uh, uh, one season you don't get um, uh, 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 the what's the word? You don't get like shitty weather on one end, but on the other, you get terrible storms and stuff. Okay, we're actually working now, I think. Oh, it's cocksucker. Why does it keep doing this to me? I pay for this shit, and yeah, no, that's good. Let me fix that again because I, I mean, Lord knows I'm paying for this shit. So hang on, I may need to redo it. Yeah, let me do this. Let me just kill this meeting. I'm gonna do another one to make sure it's setting it so it's unlimited time because I don't have the brain power to manage that. So um, I'll send you a link in two shakes. Okay. All right. You too. All right. We can make it. All right. Excelsior. Hang on. Okay. Okay, except now we're in, except now it's like wants to show me my time. Oh, you motherfucker, excuse me. It wants to show the timer, which is fine, but I don't want it. I know the countdown there is like, all right, you got to be interesting. Like, I know, isn't it? It's just like, another thing. Jesus, man. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you're just going to, so you're just going to be like, okay, all right, let's just take this time here. And, you send people out for a cuppa and then, and then try not to like destroy the, the session or something. Oh my God, why is this such a pain in the ass? Like, I can't get rid of this fucking timer. So there it is. Okay, view. All right, so let me do this window. But that's weird because it says 40 minutes on here, but I'm not. I mean, I literally set a timer and it's not saying 40 minutes. So I don't know what the fuck. Yeah, no, please, please, by all means, because clearly, definitely in the right account. But why it's doing like I don't get why it won't close current app. Okay, but now, yeah, why it says 40 minutes, and I don't get why. Okay, now it shows you and me, so it's us. What's great is this has been on YouTube the whole time, except it's been uh, my face with the little the what do you call it the bumper, God, I just some days I wonder why someone doesn't show up to me and just say, "Hey, look, we just decided you're better off. We're just going to shoot you," because clearly you're suffering. So, okay, all right. Uh, uh, I know. Okay, so I got the link. Um, tell you what, if you want to I'm going to throw the link in the chat there, and you can send that if you want. Yeah, okay, that sounds a good idea. Yeah. Oh, I I think um here you see the one I put on Mastodon. It's pretty good. Hold on. Oh my God. I'm like punchy tired now, so it's like it's gonna be perfect. And I think there you go. All right. Okay. Well, at least we're recording, so if I fucked it all up, um, yeah. So, yeah, right. And that horrible expression. But check it out. Check it out. La la
It would be funny.
la. There he is.
Oh, is it
Okay.
now?
Yeah. So now it's Now it's both of us.
Oh, is it?
It should
Mine
be.
is still showing you.
Yeah, it might. If you're looking at wait, if you're looking at YouTube, God Almighty, yeah, because it should be. Yeah, because the program. So there we go. On YouTube, there's a delay, so I have to remind
Oh,
myself not to look at YouTube, um, just because while that's while that's going on, because it confuses me. But we are live,
did
and
you?
I posted a link.
Oh,
I said "Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll" with Robert Logan, and then the other one is Robert Logan admits his wildest fantasies and weirdest kinks. So,
oh,
if anything, oh, okay, but we're here. My God. Um, okay. Well, first off, Happy Christmas. Um,
Happy Christmas,
happy late
Charles.
Christmas. Did you have a nice one?
I find Christmas and New Year's fairly unbearable. The whole concept of it is here's a pressure to feel good and take stock on all that. And people post their little summary videos on my normal social media, and they're always a lot better than mine would be. But I had a good time, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I did
All that
too.
said,
Surprisingly, I was not looking forward to Christmas this year. I was definitely Scrooging like a mofo, and then I I felt I don't know. I started to feel a little bit better about it. Um, and actually, I think we went to a what do you call it? We went to a nice service with um, some friends of Alice's to a nearby church. Um,
mm,
and excuse me, and it was actually it was nice because it was small. And it remind first. I think it's interesting. Usually, when I go, by the time I go to church and I have the service, like if I'm in a really grinchy, bah humbug mood, the service will usually pick me up and get me back to like feeling nice about it. Um,
mm,
Christmassy, if you will.
right.
And this one actually did too. But it's funny because I've been doing like a few really interesting different ones. Well, for me anyway. But this was just it's your typical sort of small New England kind of neighborhood church. Very nice inside. Um, uh, and it's funny. Alice was like, "Wow!" And the congregation um, is it's like it's obviously an open congregation in that there's same sex couples and people of all different races and creeds. She said also
Mm.
it's very accepting of older people, and I said, honey, Maine, the median age in Maine is 43. Um, so like we're pretty much only going to see older folks here. Um, but it was a nice service. I think I mentioned to you that the 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 musical director was very good, great singer, really
Oh,
talented, um, ambitious, and perhaps a touch more ambitious than some of the choir could handle. And that's no thing on them because I'm not sure I would have been able to sing as well. But
mm.
it was still really nice. And after that, I felt really good. But for some reason, I was reminded um, going there, even though it was totally different, like service. One year we went to Alice was like, let's Sophia was younger, like around 10, and she's like, let's go to a different service than we usually do because we'd go to like the Unitarian Church nearby or Congregationalist, which is kind of what's the word an inoffensive, but that doesn't mean it's not poignant, but just a pretty moderate like Protestant
Yeah,
bent,
I get
the
you.
congregation. Yeah. So one year we went to an Azande service, and something I love about Maine, especially now where we're dealing with this horrible administration and what they're doing to immigrants is we have like a really interesting population of immigrants from a wide variety of places, and this was an Azande service, and that's it's basically, if my memory is serving me, a um, like it's not a pan African Christianity, but I think it's based around the Congo, folks from from Rwanda, that area, but it was beautiful. Um,
Oh, I bet.
and like folks brought in their own. They brought in a wooden marimba that they stabilized with like concrete, like what do you call it, concrete, not barriers but concrete, stands, um,
Hmm.
and they put them on there, and it was really beautiful to listen to. And then they sang, and then they were doing the the ululations, and I gotta say, like, the other white people probably were freaked out by it, but I loved it
Yeah.
because it was just so. I love experiences like that where you're thrown into, like, especially with music, a whole different um, scene. But what was funny was, after about an hour or two, and I think I'd read like online a little bit about Azande services and what it might be. After about an hour and a half, the gentleman got up and he said, in this beautiful African accent, he said, "Thank you for coming. I see some new faces. I'm the the minister here. Normally we do our Christmas services about 6 or 7 hours long."
Whoa.
And he's just like saying it pretty normal, and everyone's like, "Uh-huh." And that's when we were like, "Okay, well, thank you, Merry Christmas," because it was just not what we were prepared for. If I'd prepared myself for the day, I probably could have managed it, but it was wonderful. And so this service was a little different for us. So it was really nice. But I found myself, yeah, I came around to Christmas eventually, this
Yeah, we
year.
both did, it seems.
Yeah, and
That's weird, isn't it?
it took me a while because I was very like, and then I finally managed to summon up the spirit. And overall, like, Christmas was very nice and chill. And then my brother came into town the next day, and then and yeah, so it's been nice to get a little more. Well, it was nice to have a little more of the spirit. Now, as I said earlier, the weather we have here in New England, we're having um, a wintry mixed storm, so it's about 40 Fahrenheit, and yet the ground is frozen, so the ground is icy, um,
Yeah.
and the air
My
is
weather
just like
similar.
wet. It's awful, and it's funny because I went out with I have what are like cleats, like wire things you put on the boots. They call them yak tracks, so you can walk. I'm out walking Henry, the dog, and he's like, even he was like, I think we could go inside. That'd be okay. I'll be all right with it.
Is he
And I'm like,
protest?
it's bad now because he normally, like, rain, snow, cold. He doesn't care, unless it's like under 10 degrees. When it starts to get single digits, then even he gets it. But today he was happy to go inside and play. But anyway, but here we are,
Here we are,
and here is
alive.
where I say I've been waiting. Now that I have your final version of your upcoming album. Oh wait, I don't, because it hasn't been. Is it the remastered? Was the mastering done yet, or is it still
Avell said their mastering is really transparent, which was the
nice?
best news I've ever heard. Because
Yeah,
did I tell you the story? I sent it to
no,
two people I really respect. It's not on them, but I got paranoid about my mastering inside,
yeah,
and then I got back to masters that were. I'm not saying this for narrative reasons. They were literally opposite sounding. One came back
interesting.
really dark and compressed, and it sounded kind of cool, but really quite radically different to what I thought. And then the other one was extremely bright and airy, way more
Oh
top end
wow,
activity. And I didn't really feel it for either of them. And then I realized I'm being paranoid because if they're both so different, there's clearly not an issue that.
Yeah,
If both had come back with the similar fixes, I'd think, right, uh, this is being a clear, objective sound problem that two different brains have heard, but it wasn't like that. They couldn't be more opposite.
yeah.
And I had to apologize to, actually, I hadn't told one of them yet. But one guy was very understanding, and
I think anybody who's a mastering, I would imagine anybody who's a mastering engineer, like you can't have been the first person to do that.
no, that's true.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure does it it may or may not complicate things on the other end. At the other end, I don't know, but it's funny. And had you given them the same reference points? Like how when you did you say did you like send it to them and say, you know, uh, bon chance, and look forward to what you're hearing, or did you have like specific um,
No, I didn't.
input?
I didn't send any reference points. I didn't know that was why I was doing it. I
Uh-huh.
thought my friend put it in a really nice way, Alistair. He said, "You've just learned a very expensive lesson in why you
Yeah,
should have trusted your own ears."
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I was just thinking, I can't master anymore. I need to get a third opinion. And I'm sure that is good. I know, like I said to you, your stuff is whoever masters that does a really good job. I forgot you told me who it is, but
I A couple of people master stuff, and I try not to use one in particular, but um, one is Robert Galbraith, who's the owner of Component Recordings. He
mm,
masters all component releases. He's done a lot of mine. Um, my friend Kent, who is known as Chair Crusher musically, big ups to the Iowa posse, Kent, um, and he does great. Really like, uh, uh, I mean, both he and Robert do really great mastering, and then Michael Southard from the who runs Triplicate Records. He's mastered he masters all the stuff on Triplicate, unless otherwise stated, and he's mastered some of my stuff. And I've been leaning a little too heavily on him lately, but I really like what he does, especially because he did he did the Containment full album.
oh, that sounded really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did a great job with that, especially because I I tend to when I do my own mastering just for my own reference, I tend to go a little heavy, and I wonder why the high end is like shredding, what remains of my upper here, register frequency. But he really managed to keep the power of it, and yet keep the separation and everything, so it wasn't overblown.
Mm.
Especially in the last track, because I was a little like I knew I was like sometimes it feels like it's a bandwidth thing. It's like you're trying to jam about 100 pounds of sausage into 5 pounds of casing. Um, Forgive the visual imagery. I know that's a little bit much for some folks, but it's funny because he actually he made that work, and I was really impressed because I couldn't get it to do that. But anyway, so yeah, so I can appreciate the finer art of mastering the finer points, obviously.
Mm.
But anyway,
Whatever, whatever you're hearing though is probably very close to. I mean, I know you've received about 15 versions, but the last one is
yeah,
the version, and
yeah, and it's
I
and
imagine,
the
yeah,
title is still Habitations.
yeah. I went through so many titles, and it makes nice sense because Brutalist is the horror of destruction, and actually, I went to the Imperial War Museum yesterday, which
Wow.
is probably why I couldn't sleep. Maybe I don't know why I couldn't
Yeah.
sleep.
Is that
Uh,
is if my I haven't I think the last time I was there was 1986. Um, and there's been a few wars since then. But is that the one?
right.
I remember there's like they kept a section of walls of a place nearby after that had been bombed out in the Blitz, just as a reminder. Is that the same museum, or is that the V&A?
It might be that I actually didn't see that bit because you think 3 hours is enough to see everything, and it isn't. We didn't get to the Holocaust. We
Oof.
just did World War One and Two,
Yeah.
and missed bits even there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was really. I, I went when I was younger. I didn't really. feel the full import of what we've been through as a collective, but I had quite a strong response this time, and it feels a bit shallow going back to habitations, but but Brutalist was because I'd been through so much doing
Yeah.
Brutalist, and I thought music was over, and uh, that was a last ditch attempt to create something in the aftermath of loads of health issues.
Hmm.
And then I realized, oh, I can still make music. That's good.
Yeah.
So Regenesis is obviously
Yeah.
about that, and then Habitations is when you settle in, and I wanted it to be interspecies, not just animals
Yeah.
and insects and such. That would have been more like habitats, but habitations includes
Mm-hmm.
human habitations, so people living
Yeah.
in a town near a nuclear plant and wherever.
Yeah.
I do you like watching those? I watched these endless documentaries set in Ukraine and Russia. I'm not getting into the politics of it. I just mean the way that people live. My favorite documentaries don't have much commentary. They're really hands off and
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it
and
immersive.
it's just like 20-minute shots of somebody like fishing in a
Yeah,
river. Yeah,
that's my
I
kind of
love
thing.
some of those. There's one that I saw. I forget if it's either Herzog narrates it or Herzog did it, where they just go into this really remote section of Siberia. Um,
Mm,
and there was one where yeah they were talking to people who hadn't like the whole village hadn't seen many outsiders in either months or years just because of the isolation. And then like they talked to some people and they were like, "Oh yes, well, there's the so and so family and they live up on the other side of that mountain and no one's seen them since World War Oh no, they haven't seen any outsiders since World War II, but we've seen them." And they go find them and the people are like, "Ah, we don't want to talk." And then eventually they do and it's like it's funny with that one. I was surprised that people that isolated hadn't like turned into not that they're going to, but I have an active imagination. They hadn't turned into Morlocks, which I was a little surprised by. They were just they actually looked pretty regular and sort of in touch. I should say contemporary. That's the better word,
mm.
not in touch. And yeah, but I love stuff like that where you see people um, in their outside environment. Oh yeah, it's T Rog. What up, T Rog? On the chat just said it's happy people of the taiga. So
Oh,
that's
yeah,
yeah, that's a
I need to
crazy one.
see
But
that.
but yeah, go on about what you're saying. Um,
Oh, thank you. So that I was really into hive, ant colonies, insect colonies, and
yeah,
their operations and the violence of their clashes and
those are
different,
wild, man.
yeah, and human clashes.
Yeah.
But it's like a landing after the last two albums, which you have your destruction and rebuilding. That's what brutalist architecture was all about, and then
Hmm.
the regenesis of growth, and even amongst rust and decay. And now we're trying to make our living.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Right.
I
And
mean, themes are really loose, aren't they? It's never exact. You don't want to pin it down too much. I was listening to an
yeah,
interview. I always say his name on Monotrix Point Never, and is that how I said his?
I believe so. I believe that's correct. Yeah. Let me
I,
just get word. Yes, the judges will allow it.
I uh, I kind of completely agree with what he said that there is a concept and it adds an imaginative overlay to what you're doing, but it's not
Yeah.
pinned down to that. That gets a bit corny. It doesn't get corny. Some concept albums are amazing. Um,
I think it can. I no. I think you're right. I think it can.
do you get what I mean?
It can get a little corny, and you can get a little too high on your own supply, kind of when
Yeah.
you're kind of locking yourself into that box and not sort of seeing outside. But on the other hand, it can yield amazing things. But yeah, it's interesting because yeah, I think some of my albums too. I have very definite themes that I'm aware of that other people may or may not get. It's funny. I was trying to explain. I remember the listening party for like Overworld, for instance, which is astounding that I think that came out a year ago, and
Wow.
I'm like
Feels
sort of like
yesterday, right?
who the fuck made that album? Like, but but I was trying to explain that Overworld was kind of me feeling like I had to kind of bury myself and hide from the world, but also kind of learn to deal with it because I still had to go out there and um, but I think the way I described it to him was a little too elliptical, and he's sort of like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's just not." But it wasn't about just hiding underground. It was sort of like it's interesting actually when I think about that because when you go from that, like the overworld, hiding for me was sort of like, the idea of sort of subterranean and or like reclusive hermetic living. You go from that to, in my head, I go from that to like months later, almost a year later, containment, which is a sort of the opposite, which is sort of like the breakdown of systems to contain something. Um,
Mm.
and and I think both of the it's obviously the images of both the albums are very linked in my head because they're both kind of underground subterranean um, images, except like the Containment album. Sorry, we're talking a little more now. I'm talking a little more about album art as opposed to like the content of the music, but I think it reflects it. Like the Containment album, that the first full album of that. Um, which even though it's like not CRT, cathode ray tube, my main thing, it's still, I think it's still it's a what do you want to call it? It's a pretty direct expression of me, not just like me,
An offshoot, or
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
not an offshoot. It's not my klezmer album or something, which that'll be a while before that comes out. But like, uh, Containment was more, like I said, about breaking out. And that album cover of that was a weird doorway I'd seen underneath a highway overpass near my favorite pizza place in Boston, actually. Um, but but it's just this kind of this, it was like this concrete door that's got garbage in front of it, and it's sort of hidden, and it's the idea that like what's behind that, and it's something that's holding back this immense monster or whatever. um, but that's interesting, and that your habitations, you went through that similar process through to get to um,
Yeah.
the
I mean, it's not the most exciting word, is it? But then I like that contrast because the words containment is also fairly neutral sounding, but
yeah,
when you hear the music, then it.
yeah,
I don't know about you. I'm taking the words a bit more seriously now. I used to just find naming stuff annoying, and obviously the audio is still central, but
yeah,
I have a track called Geometry of Birds, and sometimes technology births the concept because I'm getting into binaural audio where it can become a gimmick, but I do like playing with space.
oh yeah, that's
I'm sure oh,
fascinating.
you do too.
It's not how it's sort of like, how can it be a gimmick when it's how we hear things in real life?
Yeah, yeah, I
It's
hate
like,
that. I'm too influenced by critics. It's because I read someone say people call everything a gimmick that is interesting. Oh, it's just very
exactly,
gimmick.
yeah,
um, and I realize, the way birds flock and fly and their flight patterns and the whole geometry of how they live and nest and the violence of nature with some species. The technology I was exploring naturally led to that,
yeah,
and so it goes in both directions. Like you finding that shaft, sometimes that sparks an idea, and sometimes
yeah.
the technology and the musical concepts you're discovering. It feels like endless discovery, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Very much so. It's funny when you said birds, it just reminded me that the other day I was driving and the sun was setting, and there were there were birds like nesting on power lines, and they it was near dusk, so they were like setting into the roost for the night. But so a whole murmur, it was just seeing a murmuration, you've seen a bazillion of them, but this one
Mm.
was so fascinating, and it was happening over the highway, that I had to remind myself I was actually driving, and
I know exactly
not
what
not to be,
you
oh,
get
look at
lost
the
in.
birds, and oh my god, but it was so fascinating. But anyway,
No, I
yeah,
love days like that where
yeah,
everything's hitting you
yeah,
on where you're
how,
really connected with the wonder of it all. And I wish I
yeah,
had that more often. A lot of the time now I'm just doing things on faith, like even making music. It's the same for you, I'm sure. It's like a calling. You do it however you feel.
Yeah.
You don't know why you're doing it half the time because no one seems to be listening.
Yep.
It's not an easy
Oh, the
time.
10 minutes. God damn it! I upgraded.
Ah,
I hate
I'm
Zoom.
enjoying this one, Charles. We were in such a bad mood when we woke up, but
We're
this
we're
is
we're
healing
in.
this one.
We're rocking it. I'm gonna. For those viewing, I apologize. I gotta get my shit together. But I will have. We'll have as minimal an interruption as possible. But
Yeah, I won't need a toilet break this time. I'm
what?
feeling well toileted.
Okay, good. We're all clear. But but yeah, it's interesting. I mean, for me, it's you know, music. It's like half compulsion,
mm,
half it's partly compulsion, it's partly expression. Um, it's an exploration of like, yeah, of like of 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 composition at
mm,
a time, or like a song can be started like by an idea, like a sound you heard, or an image, like I said, a murmuration of birds or something, and then you're off on like some totally different place. I had
yeah.
I was working on something like I it's funny, I was working on a song. It was one of the ones I did from that live stream, and I was reworking it, and I I went back to the original song that inspired it. It was, I forget who it was by, but my version was, of course, I always set out to. There's a great quote by the author John Irving. He said, "Every time I'm, when I've finished a book and I'm sort of bored, I start work on my autobiography, and then I get bored with that, and I start to lie, and then that ends up being the next book." And it's kind of a similar thing. Like I'll I'm between things. I'm like, I wonder if what would sound like if I did this, and then all of a sudden, before I know it, I'm on to something else. And so it's interesting because that's I was working on a song that was kind of a sort of an exploration, a study of another one, and I ended up I got so annoyed with what I was doing with that I went and did something else, and I was like, okay, this is going to be. I wanted to see if I could do something more ambient with a digitact rather than just kind of you know the stuff I'd been doing. And what's funny is I, I started as the song, this new song, started as an ambient track, and then suddenly uh, it became yet another containment track.
That's
So
really.
it was drum and bass, and then all of a sudden, of course, I had to throw in my latest obsession is the Apache break. So I had to throw that in, but it was really interesting because it all worked out, and then I like started layering. I was like, oh, this is cool. So, but I realized the I I was getting really attached to the outcome of like the first track. I want to copy what this guy is doing, um, but I'm failing, so fuck that. I'm going to do something else, and then I want this new track to be ambient. Oh, but it ends up being jungle, drum and bass. Like, and it's funny because I was in immense frustration until I accepted that it was going to be a jungle track.
I have exactly the same experience, and I
You know?
suppose what you're distracted by or frustrated by, whatever's going on next, is where you should be because it's where your subconscious
Yeah.
is drawn. But I see those track formations, reformations all the time, and
Hmm.
one idea splinters off into four.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know a lot about geometry of birds, but that was an interesting one for me because the entire structure came in a flash. Like I knew it had to be 10
Oh
minutes.
wow.
Yeah, that doesn't always happen, but I knew it had to begin with that much more harmonic writing inspired by contemporary classical and folk music,
Oh,
trying to play it
fascinating.
all live. And then I thought that's just too simple and obvious. I can't just have the beauty of birds and leave it there. And
Yeah.
so I had the second half. And then I sent it to the wrong people as usual, and my Brazilian friend complained that the second half ruined it. Why did you make it so dark? And I'm thinking, why does it need to be one dimensional? But
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
that
you know,
doesn't usually happen though. It's usually the thing is speaking to you and you go back and forth with the music.
yeah, it's funny. When I send stuff to people to listen to, I tend to send it like obviously, I want them to say it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah,
Like,
we all want that
right? We
really.
all want it to be, it's the new Avril 14th or Chatter or whatever. Um, eh, what I've when I'm in the proper headspace, what I realize is like I'm able to take in. I want to hear what people say and hopefully not get carried away by attaching like emotion to what they're saying, but like
Mm,
take taking like, okay, this person said they liked this bit but they didn't like this, and you know and seeing sort of where that lands. It's kind of similar for me since I write a lot, both prose and the music stuff. And music, I really I have always, I shouldn't say always, most recently, oh, Henry's come to join us. um i
hello,
am
Henry.
I am you know really interested in sending stuff, songs, art, whatever, having opinions from different people, especially people who may not be into like what 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 I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
And
that's why I took that risk. Yeah.
yeah, and it's funny, I realize that comes now from one major thing, which was The Sopranos, which I'm an immense fan of. There's an episode where I don't know how much you know The Sopranos or how much other folks do, but
I don't
this.
watch TV. I'm really boring.
Oh God, you gotta watch. You know what? You know why? If anything, you should watch The Sopranos because it's it's Greek tragedy,
Mm,
painted in a early 21st century New Jersey in America. But there's a scene where one of the underling mobsters, he's trying to help his girlfriend be a music manager, and so he finds a band who are shit, and he's trying to get them to write like a hit, and he can't, and so he goes to one of their associates, a Jewish a Jewish character who, I guess, his Judaism doesn't have to be like, it's not a big thing. Well, anyway, he goes to this guy Hesh, who is a music producer in the '60s. He's sort of the stereotypical, Jewish gangster who made money off of rhythm and blues back in the '60s. And
mm.
he goes to him, and Christopher is the young mobster. He's like, you know, plays it for Hesh, and Hesh is like, this song sucks. And Christopher is like, what do you know? You don't listen to like contemporary rock. And he's like, a hit is a hit. Like,
Interesting.
like, um, this sucks. And then he plays him another song, and he's like, now that's amazing, and that's a hit. And I, I was like, oh my god, that's absolutely it. And I'm not
Mm.
saying I present my music to people in order for them to hear a hit, but it's like I think I think a lot of the time what I'm trying to do will still come through to other folks, um, if uh, uh, if I'm expressing it, authentically. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
you're absolutely right. I don't just say this for narrative reasons, but I got some really good feedback with that one. It
Yeah,
was the first I sent, and then two opposite bits of feedback. There was the first I told you about with the guy who just doesn't like the darker side. I don't see
yeah,
it as dark, by the way, but what he sees as it. And then another
right,
lady said, who's an artist, the second half is much more interesting, which was the polar opposite of um, the first guy. He found it became too dissonant.
yeah,
And then a few people said, I love the whole thing, the way it tells a story. And but what I'm looking for is what you said is how everyone is going to perceive this because well, let me give you an example. You were involved in this when I sent that track to Sean and you and DMT and Happening Hot Dog and a few others.
hmm
And Sean's really helpful and honest all the time. He said it's just a bit ordinary. And I'm like, that's
yeah,
the problem.
yeah.
It is. I because I wasn't sure about this piece, and I'm sure of Geometry Bird.
Ah, shit. All right, folks, we'll be back. Hang on. We'll have Robert Logan back in like two shakes. Hide others. You gotta hide those others. Hide others. Oh, and OBS quit. It's always something, ain't it? Okay. Back. I got me. Let's get Robert. Okay. We'll be waiting for Robert Logan to come back momentarily. Thank you so much for your patience. There he is. Okay. Jesus. Sorry. I realize, like, when that happens, and I apologize, it's going to happen again. I got to figure out my Zoom situation. But, yes, so go on. Go on. Yep. Yeah. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Preconceptions. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Which is, which is, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Oops, somebody just said we don't have any sound for you coming through. I'm sorry. Hang on. That should be going. Can you just speak again, Robert? I wonder if people can hear you now, but I don't want the whole thing. I'm sorry. That's so annoying. Um, let's just switch away, switch back in. Okay.
Hello,
Are you there? Say it
am I
again,
there?
Robert. Yeah. Okay. Now you're there. All right, and I'm here. Okay. Um,
You won't get bored if I repeat that again.
no, no, go right ahead. Go right ahead. No. Um,
Yeah, I was saying we're both control freaks on one level, and we know why we did things.
yeah. Okay. Now you're there. All right, and I'm here. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Okay. No, now I hear you. Yeah. Sorry. No, I was just watching on my phone real quick. Um, one more time. Or
Okay.
if I'm getting it correctly, yeah, it's like you don't if you keep. I mean, it's been a practice for me to learn not to send certain people certain songs, or even
Hmm.
I know I know certain people. In fact, I will check their social media feed to see how busy they are because I know if I send them a song at that particular time because their workload is such, they will almost instantaneously call it shit, which is fine. Um,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I probably would do the same thing if I was like under the gun and cranky about whatever. but it's funny. It's a bit of a dance, isn't it? It's like you want to send it to certain people whose value you and input you trust, but at the same time, you want to get fresh. You want to get fresh and fresh insight. Um,
Exactly.
Something
And
I say to people is like I'm okay with unsweetened feedback, but
mm.
don't be cruel. You know, like if you really are hearing something and it sounds like it's not working, tell me, but don't be like, hey, have you considered maybe going to work at the post office? Like um, you're just, it's a bit sort of choosing your audience, but on the other hand, I mean, is that making sense?
Yes, it is. And I think the bit that didn't come through was that there's certain tracks where you know that it arrived as an almost complete idea and you're very
Mm-hmm.
sure of why you did certain things and you have to stick to your guns and remain uncompromising on the whole. But
Yeah,
the reason that was an interesting episode with our little group and when Sean said that was
yeah,
I, you've had this too, I'm sure. You have a hunch there's something not quite right. And if the feedback is it's too dense or it doesn't make sense to me, I don't find that so useful. But
mm-hmm.
if someone's saying it's just a bit boring, um, and you know that they wouldn't say that to you readily, and they've
Yeah,
listened to it on its own terms, not with demands as to what it should do, then I will take that seriously because
yeah,
that's the last thing we need. Unfortunately, it's too rare that feedback. Normally, you're told to pipe down and why is
yeah.
there so much going on? And I
Can't you
get,
write a pretty song?
yeah,
Like, that's what I get. And it's like, no, like I can. It's just not what I hear. It's not
no,
what, is coming out. And it's really, it's funny because this reminds me of two conversations I've had. One was ages ago. I was writing, I'd written, it was my first novel, science fiction novel, and I'd written it. And I was really proud of it. And my friend Mary, who's a big science fiction reader, she and her family came up to visit, and uh, her wife and their kids stayed with Alice and Sophia while Mary and I went out to lunch. And Mary very nicely put her hand over mine and said, "This book sucks." Um, and I'm like, Mary, that's not cool. And she said, "No, but here's the thing: you can save it." And in that case, she was like, um, "You've written it as it's what is it, epistolary, like a journal type thing,
Mm.
captain's log in space or something." She said, "Write it like something else, first, third person, whatever, but it doesn't work in this. Like it's very hard to keep a book going, a story, let alone a book going with that type of format." And the other thing was, oh, and then the other conversation I had was, it's funny, I was talking with my wife about why I can watch horror movies before bed now, whereas I couldn't.
Mm.
And she said, because she was like, some things like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I just think, the people who are really into that might be a little crazy. And I'm like, well, funnily enough, you'd be surprised. Like a lot of horror fans are pretty nice, like wonderful people. They just like
Mm.
spooky stuff. Sure, there's some crazy people. There's some people who are in it, for less than, let's say, a positive content. But I said, and that I explained to her, for some reason I said horror movies don't affect me anymore. I think right now, like in fact, I like them more because they make me forget the outside world and what's going
Mm.
on politically. Like I just watched Nosferatu, the Eggers one, and that's like, oh, so great.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an important point.
yeah,
I was wondering why do we like why am I so drawn to as well? I don't really watch horror films per se, but in music, Penderecki or
yeah,
something, or I play it to anyone else. Well, not anyone else. Not you would be fine, and
yeah,
but I I'm being completely honest that I don't hear any darkness. It doesn't even make me slightly unnerved. I
right.
just find it thrilling and engaging, and
Yeah,
but I
you
did think
just,
that isn't
yeah.
how most people hear. So what's wrong with my brain? I don't,
I,
and I'm not trying to say I'm special. This is really
yeah,
not that. I really was concerned. I thought I can make this. this 15-minute piece that feels like the collapse of the universe, and I
Yeah,
feel really good.
yeah,
And I've had a few experiences of playing things to people, and that they're uncomfortable. I remember with the students in Germany,
yeah,
I played that thing I did with. I'm not trying to name drop, but it just they wanted to know the thing I did with Lana Del Rey,
yeah.
so I played it, and two people had to leave the room.
Did you get to meet Lana Del Rey?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah!
I wasn't trying to shoehorn this in, by the way, because it was a true experience of
We
people
won't we
leaving the
won't
room.
go we won't go into fanboying, but awesome. So anyway, so you the piece, please go on. Sorry.
And but I did hear it, like we said in our last conversation, through the ears in the room for the first time, because
Mm,
I don't like dumping that track, and it's a cheap way to make people listen to you. And
right.
it only came up because someone had found out, and I thought, wow, this is coming across really heavy to people.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's working.
It's yeah. It's and it's fascinating too that
I have heard that in 10 years of hearing this track. I don't listen to it often, but I'd never heard it that way. And suddenly I realized
yeah
this was not coming across to them remotely like it was to me.
yeah and isn't that fascinating because that like something yeah like what why do we like certain of us we like a specific type of music that's off to the off the beaten path or darker or something like that. It reminds me of I started listening to this podcast, Your Music Sucks. Um, and it's one of the guys is Tyler Mahan Coe, who does the really amazing Cocaine and Rhinestones podcast about 20th century country music. But in Your Band Sucks, the first episode I listened to, they were talking about Frank Zappa, and they were like, "Here's why Frank Zappa sucks," and they
What?
oh yeah, I know. And it's totally like a lot of it is taking the piss, but
Hmm.
some of them they were a little bit like, one of them was like really kind of digging into it. And one thing was they said um, something along the lines of like, Frank Zappa loved Edgar Varese, and like nobody likes Edgar Varese. And if you really like
I
Edgar
like it, but
Varese, you're in. I
I
know,
I
and
don't like that.
I was like, but I like Varese. Like I heard it.
Yeah,
I,
this is my
I first
experience
heard
too.
it when I was 6 years old, and it scared the shit out of me. And I've been trying to reproduce that ever since. But yeah, it was funny. I mean,
I can't stand those music books for this reason. Like everyone
yeah,
I've read has pissed me off so much that, and they'll make flippant comments like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And those guys, I mean, you can tell it's it's kind of like us. It's two
it's tongue in
guys
cheek.
just yeah, yeah, tongue in cheek shooting the shit. But yeah, but it's interesting because you've posted a lot on social media more recently your dissatisfaction with Western well, it was like Western composer people shitting on anything that isn't Western composition and
Hmm.
if it doesn't have you know if it doesn't have the concepts of Western music behind it, it's not worthy. And I'm
Hmm.
like, you know, part of me is like, yeah, show me a classical musician who was taught an oral tradition of an instrument who can match up against, say, like someone in a gamelan
Hmm.
ensemble, or a sitarist, or someone playing tablas. Like, it, I mean, obviously, this is no great, revelation, but like, where when we let our those biases and those our perspective um, color our viewpoint, and how we want to see the world, we're really limiting ourselves to um, to experiencing just transcendent uh, music
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
anything, like be it be it you know be it jazz, be it Hildegard of Bingham, be it gamelan,
Yeah,
be it
I was listening to her last night,
yeah.
Hildegard.
Oh, jeez,
I mean, I
that's
say listening to her. Obviously, she's been dead quite a while, but
yeah, yeah,
being
exactly. Yeah,
recreations of.
yeah, that's amazing. I first heard that during an acupuncture session, and the
Hmm.
acupuncturist was my friend. I was like, "What the hell is this stuff?" And she said, "Oh, it's this was it 14th century
Yeah,
mystic,
mystic.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa. And that really, it's funny because I think I'd probably closed a good portion of my mind off to anything coming from liturgical or religious background at a certain point, and that made me realize like, oh, there's a whole nother um, thing
World there.
yeah, going on, and especially in what do you call it, the yeah, like so, ecstatic music, or
Yes, exactly.
and yeah, and it's amazing just when you start listening to that stuff, and that reminds me of there's the Ethiopian pianist. I can never remember her name,
I know
but
who you mean because I was just talking to my trumpet player
yeah,
friend about.
she's it's from the Ethiopic series, and she's a pianist, and she recorded this music, and it's just like a former student of mine said. I played it after a yoga class, and he's like, "What is this?" And I explained. He said, "It has." He said, "It's edgy, but not in like the way that people usually say it. Meaning, it's got a different approach and a
Mm.
different viewpoint, and like Ethiopian music itself is like I first heard that in 25 years ago, and it changed how I heard music. But this was fascinating because someone had derisively said, "Oh, she's just aping." I'm sorry, aping is a terrible word. Copying uh, a jazz pianist. I can't remember who it is now. And I was like, and I listened to the pianist that they referenced, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can hear that, but at the same time, like, you're an idiot. Like, you're missing.
Yeah, yeah, that's that reductive mode
Yeah,
of listening really. It's what you just said a few moments ago that you're depriving yourself of amazing
yeah,
experiences in reducing or hearing overlaps that may be
yeah,
there, but often actually half the time I think your reduction is so broad you may as well just say everything is everything. If you're
yeah.
gonna start dismissing things like that,
Hmm.
and it goes in all directions, to be honest, because I feel slightly hypocritical. I don't know if you've heard Habitations yet, but it is very melodic in places and overtly draws on romantic, classical, and folk
Yeah,
traditions I love, which many of them are Western or Hungarian, and some are, because my wife's from Hong Kong, a lot of Chinese traditions too.
yeah,
But so I see it in both directions. It's just I'm bashing against more now, given I have to do all this reading, that Western bias. But
yeah,
equally, when I meet people dismissive of, like, you write a melody and suddenly they see that as lacking in any kind of novelty, and
yeah.
you're doing a throwback to a bygone and finished era, and this is
Right.
old fashioned, and uh, this is cheesy. I don't know. I that fixed notions, that fixed notion of how music should operate.
Yeah.
I think it's connected with ego, isn't it? It's the
Yep.
opposite of childlike, and
It is. Yeah. I think it's like anything. I think a lot of people get um, rather their responses and their interests or whatever get rather calcified, and
mm,
and they're unable to hear things in a outside of um, their viewpoint. I was watching yesterday for some reason. I got on a big Leibach kick again, and like I was watching the video for their cover of Across the Universe, which has always brought me to tears,
mm.
and is even still did. But that phrase, "Nothing's going to change my world," um, and like I think people, we all probably have like that one thing we want to hold on to, because if we let go of it, our framework of how we perceive the world collapses, and we're forced to admit that we may have been wrong, and certain statements or ways we saw things or pronouncements, whatever. And like, yeah, for me, like with music, like I used to be uh very stringent about what I listened to, why, and why it was good, why it wasn't. And like,
Mm.
I remember doing that, and I was talking about that with my wife and my friend ages ago, and he just looked at me and said, and this was before all the nasty stuff, but he said, "You fucking listen to Gary Glitter. Shut up." Like, and I'm like, all right, you're right. It's played, it's played at sport, sporting events and stuff, or something else like that. Like don't be so high and mighty when you have, you know, because of eventually it's going to be clear that you don't have the your,
Answer.
your 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 pedestal upon which you stand is not quite as stable, nor is your thoughts quite as lofty as you think they are. And
I completely agree.
you know,
Uh,
and personally, I don't mind. I mean, it's not like I want to be, embarrassed and like have my pants pulled down on stage, um, but like I don't mind being shown up for being wrong about something
yeah,
because I've the more, and I'm trying to remember when exactly I started to really adopt this, but the more I've been open to listening to something that's outside of my wheelhouse, the more I've been like I've just had my mind expanded by something. Very often, I will text my very good friend Jay, who I've known since we were 16, and I'm like, "Hey, why did I sleep on so and so back in the day?" And he's like, "We all did, you know,
mm,
we weren't ready." And I think this is another thing too, where one personally, I know I was not ready for certain types of music at certain points in my life. I grew up hearing jazz and like especially my dad like big band and Dixieland, and eventually he got into Coltrane and more bebop and whatever. I didn't really like jazz or get it until about 5 or 10 years ago.
yeah, it takes time, doesn't it, with some of
Yeah,
these?
and the same thing happened with classical music. Like I a lot of it was I respected the artistry, and I respected the skill it took to compose and things like that, and play it, but it just didn't really take me anywhere. And then I started to listen to like opera again,
Mm.
and I'm like, oh wow, okay, I get it now. You know,
Oh, you
I,
get opera. You see, I still haven't managed that one.
yeah, it's
That's
I'm not saying I'm all about the Mahler, but like or something, but like I get it. Like I'm like, oh, there's that great those CD series called Mad About Sopranos that came out, and there's just some selections from like Magic Flute,
mm.
Marriage of Figaro. I'm like, oh, that okay, I get it now. It's a bit like a jazz sampler where they'll have a variety of artists, and maybe like, oh, you like this one by John Coltrane, or maybe you like Eric Dolphy,
Oh,
or
like a compilation.
yeah, or there's a
Yeah.
Sun Ra song, and suddenly you go there.
Mm.
Um, but it is very much that thing of like, yeah, I just, I really try to be open to hearing new things. I think we talked about this, last time, but I just personally don't want to stagnate. I don't want to.
Yes, that's exactly.
I
I get challenged for all I've been saying about trying to hear everything on its own terms.
mhm.
We all have blind spots, and mostly I learn about music for young people. I think I've mentioned
Yeah,
that, guys in their 20s, and that includes music from the 70s because of the nature of the internet they've
right.
discovered. But there's this new sketch culture where a lot of the young producers I know put music together very flippantly, and it's full of clipping and distortion.
Yeah,
And at first, I thought this is getting really boring for me. Can none of you, because they all have the talent to make a finished track that sounds really good.
right.
And by good, I don't mean in a conventional way where they have to limit themselves. I just mean it's really
Yeah,
extraordinary and creative
yeah,
music. But then I realized actually I'm missing something here. They're excited about this for a reason,
yeah,
and I suddenly saw how old-fashioned I'd become, and how my insistence on modernism and construction and geometry, which I'm
yeah.
never going to let go of,
No,
I can't help it. It's me. There's no point trying to kill that because it's very core. But at the same time, I saw that they have a meta. They're like more meta than you can get with their music. It's so ironic.
Yeah.
from the track names, which are just file names, but taken to steroid levels where they're naming things after the YouTube algorithm. I can't explain it. It's just
Oh
set
yeah.
up in a
No,
really, really,
I get what you're
you
saying.
get what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
And
It,
I,
it,
and
it,
last, and it clicked one night. I was listening to this half an hour noise fest one of them sent me, and I thought, actually, this is brilliant. This is really taking the outside of music and putting a border on what music is and the
yeah.
whole way of releasing music and the whole culture that it's arrived at now
Yeah.
in a way that's genuinely imaginative. And I suddenly felt everything I'd done up until this point was really dull because
Yeah.
it didn't even have that awareness. And, and then I came around and thought, no, it's just different and they're both
Yeah.
completely valid. But that was my blind spot, and it took a few weeks of being spammed with stuff, and then I thought, no, no, this has got something. It's like
Yeah.
the modern punk.
Isn't that fascinating? And it's so great that like when I think when you can learn to like understand like yes, like okay, I'm listening from my biases or my perspective, and if I can just acknowledge that, it helps turn it off a little bit, and I can hear what's authentic and or good in
Mm.
the music. I have a similar example. I can't remember what style, what it's called, but there was like this
Vaporware. That fits this whole thing.
was I don't know if it was vaporwave or what, but it's like it, it's it's sort of like uh, 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 it's called like trans wave or transmission, but it's not like trans as in sexual identity. It's or gender identity rather. It's like basically it, it, it's really short clips of music that are almost like patterned after like um, commercials and like 80s video
Yeah,
formats and stuff. I forget
yeah,
what
I
it's
know.
called, but
Some of the kids sent me was like that. Yeah, I know
I
what you're
did this
talking about.
deep dive, and initially I was like, oh, so you're a genius because you took a MIDI file and played it through a GM, QuickTime synthesizer, uh, layered some vinyl surface noise over it, and then popped it over a video of like a day glow, cityscape, something like that. Like I was being dismissive. I was being the
Mm.
old man, and then I was like, well, turn it around, Terhune. Like, what if, like, how did it feel when you were a young person, bringing this really amazing music to people?
Mm.
What you thought, and they were dismissive. How would you feel? It's like, oh, okay, fair. And then eventually, I was like, oh wow, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I figured out, not figured out, but I understood the aesthetic they were going for and what it evoked, and I could hear that intent, and
Mm.
I could get it, even though it was not necessarily something I would make. Um,
Yes, exactly. We wouldn't make these things, but
yeah,
uh, that's the problem. People think what they make is somehow the be all and end all,
yeah,
where
yeah,
it's more
exactly. And
it's like
it's so
you're releasing
not.
different light here.
Yeah, I also, it's funny. I not long after the Ace Frehley, the guitarist from Kiss, died. Um, I was listening to, it was on like YouTube Music, and all of a sudden delivered. Oh, I was listening to Blue Oyster Cult. I was
Mm.
listening to like Don't Fear the Reaper or something, and all of a sudden it threw up um, Back in the New York Groove by Ace Frehley, which is like, and I don't know how familiar you are with Kiss, but in the in
Not
the
familiar, to be
in the
honest.
midst of like, I'm not really either, but I know it because my eldest brother listened to it. My friend Paulie's really into Kiss. Um, the when they were really big in like the mid 70s, they each put out a solo album that they wrote all the songs on, and the rest of the band played. And this song Back in the New York Groove is fucking amazing. And
Mm.
it's got, especially because Freely's New York accent comes through. He's like, I'm back, baby. I'm back in New York City with a fistful of dollars in my hand. It's like the stereotypical, I'm walking here. But I was like, oh, this is great. And I was so happy with myself because I'd finally given up my bias about certain music because I rebelled against it because my brothers liked it and it wasn't cool underground new wave. It's like, no, it's good, you know, and that's at the end of the day. It's like it's a good song, like. And sometimes people will send stuff to me or songs, and they're like, I know this isn't really your cup of tea because you like that synth stuff, and I'm like, hey man, I like I like it all. So go ahead and send it to me. Like
Mm.
I really dig it. It's or the it's it's funny when I send my friends something and they're like, you know, Charles, what's wrong? Chang, the, there's guitars in this. There's no synthesizers in this song. And I'm like, yeah, it happens once in a while. I like legitimate, not legitimate, but I like something that's outside of my normal uh, listening sphere. You know,
Yeah.
and
I
and
wonder what it says about us. What I used to think there was no connection because I knew so many demented musicians who made beautiful music. So
yeah,
I dismissed the connection between the the things that result in a studio action in a studio session and who someone is. But I changed my mind. I think there must be a really interesting link in some ways because
yeah, yeah.
there are particulars we're drawn to, even if we dip into all kinds of music from all kinds of worlds. I've noticed there's certain patterns that do emerge, and why do I love Baltic rhythms so much?
Yeah,
And then something from an 80s pop release. Obviously, they're very
right.
different, but I just mean I think there's a through line that is worth
Yeah,
investigating.
I get what you're saying, and that's something I look at too. I will catch myself, and I'm like, yeah, what is the through line between my own listening of like,
Mm.
let's say dub reggae and electronic stuff, but like Peruvian leaf playing music
Yeah.
and other stuff, and it's really interesting. Yeah, I wonder what it is that we catch on. And it's when you said that, it reminded me that I I really had a change of thought recently about humans, and I think it's because we talked about this last time. We were talking a little bit about like many lives, many masters, and reincarnation. But I used to really think, I guess I wanted to believe that people were not extraordinary. Like no one was extraordinary. We were all born with the same gifts, and
Mm.
it was just a question of how we used it or something. And then I came to realize, I think it was from watching something like LeBron James play basketball, like you know. Or any or Beckham play like football or whatever, not even an athlete, but like there is something innately divine might be the word, but unique to them that makes them so powerful at this one thing. So hang on one second. Yes. Reminder: we have a meeting with Jen Frank. Oh, is that still on? Even though the storm? I haven't called her to cancel it, so. I had no. I totally forgot about that. Sorry about this. The technical stuff. What time is it? 3 p.m. It's at 3 p.m. Online? No, at her office. Oh, geez. Okay, I didn't realize that. So that's why I think I mentioned it yesterday. You did, but I can you. Well, okay. I'll wrap up and then yeah. Okay. Um, Let me do this. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I'm going to call her, but I did not hear from her as to any cancellations. Okay. Yeah, if you can. Yeah, that'd be great. Sorry. That's very not exciting for everybody to hear. Um, but what was I saying? Oh, just that some people just have a certain gift for things, be it
Yeah, there
music
is something
or,
magical about
yeah,
seeing that. I had the same with sport because I'm not a sports guy. I was never good at it apart from athletics, and that's just running in one line. I was good at. I couldn't do
yeah,
anything complicated. But I actually listened to an argument between Ivor and a partner of his, and she was saying she didn't understand sport or football and tennis and thought it was like a complete waste of time. And he described the artistry he sees in it. And you
mm,
know how a single conversation can change your whole perception
yeah,
on the matter. And I suddenly got it. I may not be into it, but there's something of the same essence or energy going on
Hmm.
with all of these fields that is. I like the word divine for this because it does touch on that,
I think it really does. Yeah.
and
Uh
even boxing. I watched this Japanese boxer called Nanuye Inoue,
huh.
and I'm a bit disturbed by the injuries and deaths that have happened,
Yeah.
obviously, or very disturbed. But watching him outclass an opponent and think the IQ levels involved,
Oh yeah.
it
It's
makes
it's
it gives you goosebumps. It's really something, and
it does. I love boxing. I used to watch it more regularly. I used to watch heavyweight fights, but like for instance, like the two fights that were very popular. The what was it Jake Paul versus Aaron Joshua, and then that
oh
that
yeah.
horrid parasite Andrew Tate got pasted by somebody, and like when you learn to be able to see the specifics, and you don't see anymore just two guys beating the paste out of each other, and you
Mm,
can see like like when you like someone says look at the footwork between
mm,
the the winner and the loser, and
mm.
like they're two very different things, and maybe it's age, maybe
Yes,
it's not,
yeah,
whatever, but like you see that, and you can see the you can see the the science behind it. Or like it's funny, I don't like UFC fighting, MMA. I don't. It just it looks like when it's two
yeah.
guys, it looks like
It's too violent for me.
yeah,
It's
it just
and the
looks
culture is
like
not nice.
a street fight,
Yeah.
but two women, and it's not a sexual thing at all. But two women fighting like that, it's amazing to me. Like,
I've never seen one.
oh God, it's great because you just see them, and they're like, they're just like going after each other, but you see the artistry and the strength involved. And yeah. By the way, I just before when the timer runs out of this, I'm afraid I am going to have to go because apparently
Or have you been
I
informed of
I
a okay?
yeah. So, but we'll do, but I'm glad we can still go on until the clock
I,
runs out. But
I'm never usually like this. I'm terrible at bringing up my own music, but have you heard Habitations yet?
I honestly haven't listened to it fully and given it
Oh, don't
the
worry.
but part of that's just been in the mood I've been in. I haven't. It's weird. I haven't been listening to a lot of music, partly because I've become obsessed with the video game Arc Raiders, and you really, it's a first person Overwatch type shooter one, and you have to first off the sound design in it is brilliant. It's
Mm.
absolutely breathtaking. And the other thing is you have to be listening, otherwise you will die within seconds of entering the arena. But I wanted to, now that it's mastered, I wanted to give it, and I know it's also the final version. I wanted to give it the attention. But I love like what I've heard of the first couple of songs. Yet again, you're it's interesting because it may not be a music style whatever that I'm used to listening to.
Mm.
Sometimes like you were talking the brighter you know romantic composers, or if that's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's a true reference.
But yeah, but oh, online. Okay. All right, great. Okay. Um, but okay, so I don't have to drive in the snow, but we do have to go to this meeting. But anyway, but it's a beautiful continuation. I'm really looking forward to digging deeper into it because um, something one thing I really like about your music is I think you, and not in a blunt force way, which I might do, but you ask people to listen differently, to go out on a limb, but it's very rewarding.
Oh,
And
that's really great to hear. That's
yeah,
the aim.
yeah,
Thank
isn't
you.
it?
That's
I mean,
wonderful.
but
Yeah.
and no, and yeah, and I don't say that I'm not blowing smoke, like, but I was really thinking to that, or like an older track of yours have come like Flesh, something that's come
Mm.
up from Flesh or Flesh Decomposed, and I'm like, man, there's some tough things going on here. Like the tunings are a little different, and the arrangement is a little different, but you are rewarded at the end.
Mm.
Whereas I think like I don't know that whole the Containment full length album, like that's a lot. Like I was
Oh, you
kind of
mean? the
my
sheer density of.
yeah, the density of what I'm trying to put forward, and like I released an EP this month, which was 4 songs, a little bit easier, not quite as bludgeony, but that's something I really love about your style is that you draw things together from some clear, like, classical influences or whatever, but then other things, and you weave it together in a way that's very unique for electronic music, because most of the time when when you hear someone, a musician who's coming from a um, um, Western or more classical trained background, you can kind of hear that coming through.
Yeah,
Like,
that's disturbing where it's very
yeah,
conscious and and it sometimes comes from a chip on the shoulder where they perceive a lack somewhere and they think, here I am to save the day
yes,
and introduce some real music to
right.
to the
Like, I'm
situation.
gonna save music, and it's like, no, you're not. You know, you're you're
um,
you're just you're just another fucking guy.
yeah,
you know, like, it's not for us to judge necessarily. It's like
no,
somebody else. Like it's I was watching an interview with Robert Eggers with Willem Dafoe and Nicholas Hoult, the actors from Nosferatu, and